Hey guys, it's Nathan for the books here. Now, we all know I'm very good at speaking, just kind of like got a golden, beautiful, syrupy voice. Everybody loves to hear it. I was even a top 20 DECA role player this year, some big deal. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I decided I'm going to use these God-given talents, start making some money off it, get in the audiobook business. That's a big one right now. So I just picked up, we're going to read Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days. This should be a good one. I can't show you the pictures because that's not how an audiobook works, but I can describe them to you. So here, we'll do this. Signing the book. And after this, you can just, give me like your address and all your information, and maybe I'll send it to you as a sweet little treat. All right, so let's get right into it. Starting off, June Friday. For me, summer vacation is basically a 3-month guilt trip. Just because the weather's nice, everyone expects you to be outside all day frolicking or whatever. And if you don't spend every second outdoors, people think that there's something wrong with you. But the truth is, I've always been more of an indoor person. The way I like to spend my summer vacation is in front of the TV, playing video games with the curtains closed and the lights off. And then the picture is exactly what he just described. Unfortunately, Mom's idea of a perfect summer vacation is different from mine. And she says, you should really get some sunlight in here, and he's hissing at the sun. That's pretty crazy. Mom says it's not natural for a kid to stay indoors when it's sunny out. I tell her that I'm just trying to protect my skin so I don't look like all wrinkly when I'm old like her, and she doesn't want to hear it. Mom keeps trying to get me to do something outside, like go to the pool. But I spent the first part of the summer with my friend Rally at the pool, and it didn't work out so good. Rally's family belongs to a country club, and when school let out for the summer, we were going there every single day. And then it's them. They're there. Then we made the mistake of inviting this girl named Trista who had just moved into the neighborhood. I thought it would be really nice of us to share our country club lifestyle with her. But 5 seconds after we got to the pool, she met some lifeguard and forgot all about the guys who invited her. I've been there before. Oh, excuse me. The lesson I learned is that some people won't think twice about using you, especially when there's a country club involved. Me and Rally were better off without a girl hanging around anyway. We're both bachelors at the moment, and we're doing summer better unattached. And they're hitting on the adult ladies at the hot tub. That's not cool. A few days ago, I noticed the quality of service at the country club was starting to go down a little. Like sometimes the temperature in the sauna was a few degrees too hot. And one time, the poolside waiter forgot to put one of those little umbrellas in my drink. It's not cool. I reported all my complaints to Rally's dad, but for some reason, Mr. Jefferson never passed them on to the clubhouse manager. And he's complaining to them. Which is kind of weird. If it was me who was paying for the country club membership, I'd want to make sure I was getting my money's worth. Anyway, a little while after that, me and Rally told me I wasn't allowed to he wasn't allowed to invite me to the pool anymore, which is fine with me. I'm much happier inside my air-conditioned house, where I don't have to check my soda can for bees every time I go to take a sip. This guy's pretty entitled. Saturday. Like I said, Mom keeps trying to get me to go to the pool with her and my little brother Manny. But the thing is, my family belongs to the town pool, not the country club. And once you've tasted the country club life, it's hard to go back to being an ordinary Joe at the pool. Oh boy, and he's at the snack bar and there's a crying baby. Pretty crazy stuff. There's a hairy guy. Besides, last year I swore to myself that I would never go to that place again. I remember this part. At the town pool, you have to go through the locker room before you can go swimming. And that means walking through the shower area, where grown men are soaping down right out in the open. The first time I walked through the men's locker room at the town pool was one of the most traumatic experiences in my life. Hey, I've been there. I've seen grown at the YMCA. I've seen some crazy things, I'll tell you that. I'm probably lucky I didn't go blind. Seriously, I don't see why Mom and Dad bother to try and protect me from horror movies and stuff like that when they're going to expose me to something about 1,000 times worse. Amen. I really wish Mom would stop asking me to go to the town pool, because every time she does, it puts images into my mind I've been trying hard to forget. Probably those old guys' penises. Sunday. Well, now I'm definitely staying indoors for the rest of the summer. Mom had a house meeting last night and said money's tight this year and we can't afford to go to the beach, which means no family vacation. That really stinks. I was actually looking forward to going to the beach this summer. Not because I like the ocean and the sand and all of that, because I don't. I realized a long time ago that the world's fish and turtles and whales all go to the bathroom right there in the ocean. And I seem to be the only person bothered by this. I'm getting the feeling Greg might be a little bit egotistical. My brother Roderick likes to tease me because he thinks I'm afraid of the waves. But I'm telling you, that's not it at all. But then there's a picture of him being afraid of the waves. Which doesn't make sense, because why would he contradict himself comedically by drawing a picture of himself? This is his diary. Anyway, I was looking forward to spending some time going to the beach because I'm finally tall enough to ride the cranium shaker, which is this really awesome ride that's on the boardwalk. Roderick's been on the cranium shaker at least 100 times, and he says you can't call yourself a man until you ride it. That's nice. Mom said maybe if we save our pennies, we can go back next year. Then she said we do a lot of fun stuff as a family, and one day we'll look back on this as the best summer ever. Well, now I only have 2 things to look forward to this summer. One is my birthday, and the other is when the last Little Cutie comic runs in the paper. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but Little Cutie is about the worst comic ever. You get the idea of what I'm talking about? Here's what ran in the paper earlier today. And it says, it's raining, and the little kid is saying, Daddy, why? Is rain just God sweating? Or something like that? Excuse me. Oh, boy. This deck is decking right now. But here's the thing. Even though I hate Lil Cutie, I can't stop myself from reading it, and Dad can't either. I guess that means we're just seeing how bad it is. And they're looking at how bad it is. Lil Cutie has been around for at least 30 years, and it's been written by this guy named Bob Post. I've heard Lil Cutie is based on Bob's son when he was a little kid. And then Lil Kid is saying, if I eat my green bean, will its mommy and daddy be sad? And then he's thinking like, ka-ching, because he's going to use that to make a cute comic. But I guess now that the real Little Cutie is all grown up, his dad's having trouble coming up with new material. A couple of weeks ago, the newspaper announced that Bob Post is retiring, and the final Lil Cutie is going to be printed in August. Ever since then, me and Dad have been counting down the days until the last comic runs. I hate to spoil this for you guys. I know this is off the cuff, but I'm pretty sure I remember they just gave it to a new writer at the end of the book. Don't want to spoil it for you guys, but just manage your expectations. When the last Lil Cutie comes out, me and Dad are going to throw a party or something, because something like that deserves serious celebration. Monday. Even though me and Dad see the eye to eye on Little Cutie, there are still a lot of things we butt heads over. The big issue between us right now is my sleep schedule. During the summer, I like to stay up all night playing video games or watching TV and then sleep through the morning. But Dad gets kind of crabby when I'm still in bed when he gets home from work. Jeez. Lately, Dad's been calling me at noon to make sure I'm not still asleep. So I have a phone by my bed and use it as my best wide-awake voice whenever he calls. I think Dad's jealous because he has to work while the rest of us get to kick back and take it easy every day. But if he's going to be all grumpy about it, he should just become a teacher or a snowplow or a driver that has to take one of those jobs off every summer. Excuse me? I said that wrong. But if he's going to be all grumpy about it, he should just become a teacher or a snowplow driver or have one of those jobs where you get to take the summers off. They're going to have my ass down at the audiobook store if they hear that. Mom's not really helping improve Dad's mood either. She calls him about work about 5 times a day with updates about what's going on around the house. And then it's Manny he went to the bathroom. Tuesday. Dad got Mom a new camera for Mother's Day, and lately she's been taking lots of pictures. I think it's because she feels guilty that she's not keeping up with the family photo albums. When my older brother, Roderick, was a baby, Mom was totally on top of things. Roderick's first time trying peas. Roderick's second time trying peas. Roderick's first steps, and then when he fell. Once I came along, I guess Mom got busy, so from that point on, there were a lot of gaps in our official family history. I'm gonna take a sip of my cola. Welcoming Gregory to the world. Taking Gregory home from the hospital. Gregory's 6th birthday party, and then Gregory's first day of middle school. There's a couple of gaps in there. I've learned that photo albums aren't an accurate record of your life anyway. Last year when we were at the beach, Mom bought a bunch of fancy seashells at the gift shop, and later on I saw her bury them in the sand for Manny to discover. That's crazy. Well, I wish I hadn't seen that, because it made me reevaluate my whole childhood, and then you see, that also happened to him. Today Mom said I was looking shaggy, so she told me we needed to get a haircut. But I never would have agreed to let my haircut if I knew that Mom was taking me to Bombshell's Beauty Salon, which is where Mom and Grandma get their haircut. Good thing they didn't say Granny. That would have been crazy. I have to say, though, the whole beauty salon experience wasn't that bad. First of all, they have TVs all over the place, so you can watch a show while you're waiting to get your haircut. Second, they have lots of tabloids, those newspapers you see in checkout lines at grocery stores. Mom says tabloids are full of lies, but I think there's some really important stuff in these things. Miracle pill that makes you 97% smarter. That's something. Grandma is always buying tabloids, even though Mom doesn't approve. A few weeks ago, Grandma wasn't answering her phone, so Mom got worried and drove over to Grandma's to see if she was okay. Grandma was fine, but she wasn't picking up her phone because of something she read. And it says, cordless telephones erase the memory of the elderly. I don't think that's true. But when Mom asked Grandma where she got her information, Grandma said, the New York Times? I don't think she's being honest about that. Grandma's dog, Henry, died recently, and ever since that, Grandma has had a lot of time on her hands. So Mom's dealing with stuff like the cordless phone thing a lot these days. Whenever Mom finds any tabloids at Grandma's house, she takes them home and throws them in the garbage. Last week I fished one out in the trash and read it in the bathroom. I'm glad I did. I found out that North America will be underwater in 6 months, so that kind of takes pressure off me for school. I had a long wait at the beauty salon, but I didn't really mind. I got to read my horoscope and look at pictures of movie stars without their makeup, so I was definitely entertained. I think Greg might be gay. When I got to the haircut, I found out the best thing about the beauty salon, which is the gossip. The ladies who work there know dirt on just about everybody in town. Unfortunately, Mom came to pick me up right in the middle of the story about Mr. Peppers and his new wife, who's 20 years younger than him. That's crazy. Hopefully, my hair will grow out fast so I can come back and hear the rest of the story. Friday. I think Mom's starting to regret taking me to get my haircut the other day. The ladies at Bombshells introduced me to soap operas, and now I'm totally hooked. And it says, but Marissa, I love you. And then Greg is saying to the TV, girlfriend, you can do so much better than him. I think Greg is gay, guys. Yesterday, I was in the middle of my show, and Mom told me to turn the TV off and find something else to do. I could tell there was no use arguing with her, so I called Riley and invited him over. When Riley got to my house, we spent straight to Roderick's room in the basement. Roderick is off playing with his band, Loaded Diaper, and whenever he's away, I like to go through his stuff and see if there's anything interesting I can find. The best thing I found in Roderick's junk drawer is this time around was one of those little souvenir picture keychains you get at the beach. If you go look into it, you see a picture of Roderick with some girl. I don't know how Roderick got that picture because I've been on every single family vacation, and if I saw him with that girl, I definitely would have remembered her because she's hot, probably. I showed the picture of Riley, but I had to hold the keychain because he was getting all grabby. Jeez, Riley. When I dug around some more, and then we found a horror movie at the bottom of Roderick's drawer, I couldn't believe our luck. Neither one of us had ever seen an actual horror movie before, so this was a really big find. And it's called Hello, You're Dead. Sounds like a pretty crazy movie. I asked Mom if Riley could spend the night, and she said yes. I made sure I asked Mom when Dad was out of the room, because Dad doesn't like it when sleepovers on a work night. Last summer, Riley spent the night at my house, and we slept in the basement. I made sure Riley took the bed that was closest to the furnace room, because that room really freaks me out. I figured if anything had to come in the middle of the night, it would grab Riley first, and have a 5-second start to escape. At about 1 in the morning, we heard something in the furnace room and scared the living daylights out of us. It sounded like a little ghost girl or something, and it said, I'm hiding. Can you find me? I don't think this really happened. Me and Riley practically trampled each other to death trying to get up the basement stairs. We burst into Mom and Dad's room, and I told them our house was haunted and that we had to move immediately. Dad didn't seem convinced, and he went down to the basement and walked right into the furnace room. Me and Riley stayed about 10 feet back. I'm pretty sure Dad wasn't going to go out of there alive. I heard some rustling and a few bumps, and I was ready to make a run for it. But many seconds later, I came back with one of Manny's toy dolls. A doll named Hide-and-Seek Henry. Nice. Last night, me and Riley waited for Mom and Dad to go to bed, and then we watched our movie. Technically, I was the only one who watched it, because Riley had his eyes and ears covered the whole time. The movie was about this muddy hand that goes around the country killing people, and the last person who sees the hand is always its next victim. The special effects were really cheesy, and I wasn't even scared until the very end. That's when the twist came. After the muddy hand strangled its last victim, it came crawling straight to the screen, and then it went black. At first I was a little confused, but then I realized that meant the next victim was going to be me. I turned the TV off, and then I described the whole movie to Riley from beginning to end. Well, I must have done a pretty good job telling the story, because Riley got even more freaked out than I was. I knew we couldn't go to Mom and Dad this time because they'd ground me if they found out we had watched a horror movie. But we didn't feel safe in the basement, so we spent the rest of the night upstairs in the bathroom with the lights on. I think Riley is gay too. I just wish we had managed to stay awake the whole night. Because when Dan found us in the morning, it wasn't a pretty scene. Dad wanted to know what was going on, and I had to fess up. Dad told Mom, so now I'm just waiting to hear how long I'm going to be grounded for. But to be honest with you, I'm a lot more worried about this muddy hand than any punishment Mom can dream up. I thought about it, though, and I realized there's only so much ground a muddy hand can cover in a day. So hopefully that means I'll have a little longer to live. Let's see. Tuesday. Yesterday, Mom lectured me about how boys my age watch too many violent movies and play too many video games and that we don't know what real entertainment is. I just stayed quiet because I wasn't sure exactly where she was going with this. Then Mom said she was going to start a reading club for the boys in the neighborhood so she could teach us how great literature we were missing out on. I begged Mom to just give me a regular punishment instead, but she wouldn't budge. So today was the first meeting of the Reading is Fun Club. I felt kind of bad for all the boys whose moms made them come. I was just glad Mom didn't invite Fregley, this weird kid that lives up the street, because he's been acting stranger than usual lately. Want to hear about my hygiene issues? And it looks like he's wearing a wife beater, I guess. I'm starting to think that maybe Fregley's a little dangerous, but luckily he doesn't really leave his front yard during the summer. I think his parents must have an electrical fence or something. Anyway, Mom told everyone to bring their favorite book to today's meeting and we could all pick one to discuss. All the guys laid out their books on the table, and everyone seemed pretty happy with the selection except for Mom. We've got Sudoku Insanity, Ultimate Video Game Cheats, Volume 8, Green Wasp, and Extreme Pop-Up Sharks. Mom said the books we brought weren't real literature, and that we were going to have to start with the classics. I've been there. I read Great Expectations. It actually wasn't even that bad. But A Separate Peace, oh my gosh, that's the worst book I've ever read. It's so bad. Oh my gosh. Then she brought out a bunch of books that she must have had since she was a kid. We've got Little Women, The Yearling, Old Yeller, and Anne of Green Gables, I guess. These are the exact same books that our teachers are always pushing us for us to read at school. They have a program where if you read a classic in your free time, they reward you with a sticker of a hamburger or something like that. I don't know who they think they're fooling. You can get a sheet of 100 stickers down to the arts and crafts store for 50 cents. I'm not really sure what makes a book a classic to begin with, but I think it has to be at least 50 years old and some old person or animal has to die at the end. Mom said that if we didn't like the book she picked out, we could go on a field trip to the library and find something we all agreed on, but that wouldn't work for me. So when I was about 8 years old, I borrowed a book from the library, and when I forgot about it, I found the book a few years later behind my desk, and I figured I must have owed it about $2,000 in late fees on the thing. So I buried the book in an old box of comics in my closet, and that's where it is to this day. I haven't been to the library since then, and I know if I ever do show up, they'll be waiting for me. Greg Heffley, you are under arrest for failing to return How to Make Sock Puppets. This book is funnier than I remember. In fact, I get nervous if I even see a librarian, and they're at the store, and they see a librarian, and Greg thinks that the librarian is going to recognize him, which is ridiculous. I asked Mom if we could give him a second chance to pick a book on her own, and she said we could. We're supposed to meet again tomorrow and bring our new selections with us. Wednesday. Well, the membership of the Reading is Fun Club took a big hit overnight. Most of the guys who came yesterday bailed out, and now there's only 2 of us. Him and Riley. Riley brought 2 books with him. How to Find Garden Fairies and Me and Mommy's Silly Playground Activities. The book I picked out was the 9th volume in the Magic and Monsters Dark Realms series. I figured Mom would like it because it's pretty long and there aren't any pictures. But Mom didn't like my book. She said she didn't approve of the illustration on the cover because she didn't like the way it portrayed women. Well, no wonder. Greg thinks it's normal because he's gay. I've read Shadow Doom, and from what I can remember, there aren't even any women in the story. In fact, I kind of wonder if the person who designed the cover even read the book. I'll let you in on a secret. It's because if you put a hot girl in the book, more people will buy it. Anyway, Mom said that she was going to have to use her veto power as the Reading is Fun Club's founder and choose a book for us. So we chose this book called Charlotte's Web, which looks like it's one of those classics that I talked about before. I've read that book. Just from looking at the cover, I guarantee either the girl or the pig doesn't make it to the end of the book. Friday. Well, the Reading is Fun Club is down to just one member, and it's me. Yesterday, Riley went golfing or something with his dad, so he kind of hung me out to dry. I didn't do my reading assignment, and I was really counting on him to cover for me at the meeting. It's not really my fault I couldn't finish the reading assignment, though. Mom told me I had to read in my bedroom for 20 minutes yesterday, but the truth is, I have trouble concentrating for long periods of time. After Mom caught me horsing around, she banned me from watching TV until I read the book. So last night I had to wait until she went to bed before I could get my entertainment fix. Just read the book, bro. I kept thinking about the movie with the muddy hand, though. I was afraid that if I was watching TV all by myself at night, the muddy hand might crawl out from under the couch and grab me in my foot or something. The way I solved the problem was by making a trail of clothes and other stuff all the way from the bedroom down to the family room. That way I was able to make it downstairs and back without ever touching the ground. This morning, Dad tripped over my dictionary I left at the top of the stairs, and now he's mad at me. But I'll take Dad being angry over the alternative any day of the week. My new fear is that the hand is going to crawl up on my bed and get me in my sleep, so lately I've been covering my whole body with a blanket and leaving a hole so I can breathe. But that strategy has its own risks. Roger got into my room today, and I had to spend the whole morning trying to wash the taste of dirty sock out my mouth. That's classic Roderick. Sunday. Today was the deadline for finishing the first 3 chapters of Charlotte's Web. When Mom found out I wasn't done yet, she said we were going to sit down at the kitchen table until I was finished reading. About a half hour later, there was a knock at the door, and it was Riley. I thought maybe he was coming back to the Reading is Fun Club, but when I saw his dad with him, I knew something was up. Mr. Jefferson had an official-looking piece of paper with the country club logo on it. He said there was a bill for all the fruit smoothies me and Riley ordered at the clubhouse, and it was a grand total of $83. That's actually not that bad. All those times me and Riley ordered drinks at the clubhouse, we just wrote down Mr. Jefferson's account number on the tab. Nobody told us somebody actually had to pay for that. I still didn't really understand what Mr. Jefferson was doing at my house. I think he's an architect or something, so if he needs $83, he should just design an extra building. He talked to Mom, though, and they both agreed that me and Riley needed to pay off the tab. I hate parents. Ugh. I told Mom me and Riley are just kids, and that it's not like we have salaries or careers or whatever, but Mom said we were just going to have to be creative. Then she said that we would have to suspend the Reading is Fun Club member meetings until we paid what we owed. To be honest, I'm kind of relieved. At this point, anything that doesn't involve reading is sounding pretty good to me. That's kind of ironic, considering what I'm doing right now. Tuesday. Me and Riley racked our brains all day yesterday trying to figure out how to pay off that $83. Riley said maybe I should just go to the ATM and withdraw some money to pay off his debt. The reason Riley said that is because he thinks I'm rich. A couple of years ago during the holidays, Riley came over and we had just run out of toilet paper at my house. My family was using these holiday cocktail napkins as a substitute until Dad got to the store again. Riley thought the holiday napkins were some kind of really fancy toilet paper, and he asked if my family was rich. I wasn't going to pass off the opportunity to impress him. And he just said, yep, which I don't know why you would want to impress Riley, because he's kind of a dunce, a nice dunce, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm not rich, and that's the problem. I tried to figure out a way a kid my age could get his hands on some real cash, and then it hit me. We should start a lawn care service. I know somebody who does this exactly in real life. You know who you are, and he's probably dumber than Riley. I'm not talking about some average run-of-the-mill lawn service either. I'm talking about a company that takes care of the lawn to the next level. We decided to name our company the VIP Lawn Service. We called it the Yellow Pages people and told them we wanted to place an ad in their book. And not just one of those tiny little text ads, but we want a really big one that's full color and takes up 2 pages. But get this, the Yellow Page people told us it was going to cost a few $1,000 to put our ad in the book. I told them that didn't make a lot of sense to me, because how's someone going to pay for an ad if they haven't earned any money yet? Me and Riley realized we were going to have to do this in a different way, and we made our own ads. I figured we could just make some flyers and put them in every mailbox in the neighborhood. All we needed was some clip art to get us started. So we went down to the corner store and bought one of those cards women get each other for their birthdays. Hope your birthday is hot, 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 and it's a bunch of hot guys. No wonder they picked that one. Greg and Riley, frickin', they're gay. Then we scanned into Riley's computer and pasted pictures of our heads onto the bodies in the car. After that, we got some clip art or lawn tools and put it all together. Then we printed it out, and I have to say it looked great. I did some math, and I figured it would cost us at least a couple $100 in color ink cartridges and paper to make enough flyers for the whole neighborhood. So we asked Riley's dad if he would go to the store and get us the stuff he needed. Mr. Jefferson didn't go for it. In fact, he told us we couldn't use his computer or print out any more copies for our flyer. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but also they're only in middle school. If you're gonna encourage them to make some money, like Greg said, the money doesn't even matter that much. They're probably just trying to teach them accountability and the value of hard work and stuff. I was a little surprised by that, because if Mr. Jefferson wanted us to pay him back, he really wasn't making it easy. That's what I'm saying. But all we could really do was just take our one flyer and get out of his office. Then me and Riley went around from house to house and showed everyone our flyer and telling them about our VIP lawn service. After we hit a few houses, we realized it would be a lot easier to just ask the next person we spoke to pass the flyer along, so me and Riley wouldn't have to do any of the walking. Now the only thing we have to do is sit back and wait for the phone calls to start rolling in. Me and Riley waited all day yesterday, but we didn't get any calls. Excuse me. This is how the professionals do it. I was starting to wonder if we could try to find a card with more muscular guys for our next flyer. No wonder he's thinking about that. Then at 11 in the morning, we got a call from Miss Canfield, who lives on Grandma Street. She said she needed her lawn mowing, but she wanted to check our references before she hired us. I used to do lawn work for Grandma, so I called her up and asked if she could tell Miss Canfield about what a good worker I am. Well, I must have caught Grandma on a bad day, because she really lit into me. She said I left piles of leaves on her lawn last fall, and now there were patches of dead grass all over her yard. Then she asked me when I was going to come over and finish the job. That was not really the kind of response that I was looking for. I told Grandma we were only doing paying jobs at the moment, but we could get back to her later on in the summer. Then I called Miss Canfield and did my best imitation of Grandma. I guess I'm lucky my voice hasn't changed yet. The VIP lawn service... Well, he's covering his nose. The VIP lawn service does exceptional work and catered to my every lawn need. Nice. Believe it or not, Miss Canfield bought it. She thanked Grandma for the reference and hung up. Then she called me back a few minutes later, and I answered in my regular voice. Miss Canfield said that she'd hire us, and she should come by at her house later today to get started. But it's kind of far from my house to Miss Canfield's, so I asked her if she could come get us. She didn't seem real happy that we didn't have our own transportation, but she said she'd be willing to pick us up if we could be ready at noon. Miss Canfield came to my house at 12 in her son's pickup truck, and she asked us where our lawnmower and all of our equipment was. I said we didn't really have any equipment, but that my grandma keeps her side door unlocked and that I might be able to sneak in and borrow her mower for a few hours. I guess Miss Canfield must have been pretty desperate to have her lawn mowed because she went along with my plan. And then Greg is pushing it even more, saying, mind if I change the radio station? Because Greg is just such a stinker. Luckily, Grandma wasn't home, so it was easy to get the mower out of her house. We rolled it up to Miss Canfield's yard and we were ready to get to work. That's when me and Riley realized neither one of us had ever actually operated a lawnmower before. So the two of us poked around for a while and tried to figure out how to get the thing started. It's so easy. It's so obvious. Greg is kind of a dunce. Unfortunately, when we tilted the mower on its side, all the gasoline spilled out into the grass, and we had to go back to Grandma's to get a refill. I picked out the owner's manual for the mower while we were at it. I tried to read it, but the instructions were written in Spanish. I could get a feeling for bits and pieces. I could understand that operating the lawnmower was a lot more dangerous than I originally thought. I told Riley that we should have... we could have a... What does it say? I told Riley he could have the first crack at lawn mowing and that I would go sit in the shade and start working on our business plan. Riley didn't like that idea at all. He said that this was a partnership and that everything had to be 50-50. I was pretty surprised by this because I'm the one who came up with the idea for the lawn care service in the first place, so it was more like the owner than a partner. I told Riley we needed someone to do the grunt work and someone to handle the money so it didn't get all sweaty. Believe it or not, that was enough for Riley to walk right off the job. I was going to say, for the record, that if Riley ever needs a job reference in the future, I'm going to give him a lousy review. The truth is, I didn't really need Riley anyway. If this lawn caring business grows the way I think it will, I'll have about 100 Rileys working for me. I don't think that's going to happen. In the meantime, I needed to get Miss Canfield's lawn mowed. I looked in the manual a little bit longer and then figured out that I needed to pull this handle attached to the cord, so I tried that. The mower started up right away, and it was off and running. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The lawnmower was self-propelled, so all I had to do was walk behind it and steer it every once in a while. Then I started to notice that there were piles of dog poop everywhere, and steering around them was not easy at all for a self-propelled mower. I have experience with this. The VIP lawn service has a very strict policy when it comes to dog poop, which is that we won't go anywhere near it. So from that point on, whenever I saw something that looked suspicious, I mowed a 10-foot circle around it just to be safe. How big is her yard? Jeez. The job actually went a lot faster because I had a lot less lawn to cover. After I was done, I went to the front door to collect the money. The final bill was $30, which was $20 for the lawn plus $10 for the time me and Riley spent designing that flyer. But Miss Canfield wouldn't pay. She said our service was lousy and that we hardly mowed any of her lawn. I told her about the dog poop issue, but she still wouldn't cough up what she owed me. And to make matters worse, she wouldn't even give me a ride home. You know, I figured someone might try to stiff us this summer, but I never thought it would be our very first customer. I had to walk home. By the time I got to my house, I was really mad. I told Dad the whole story about the lawn mowing service and how Miss Canfield wouldn't pay me. Dad drove right over to Miss Canfield's house, and I went with him. I thought he was going to chew her out for taking advantage of his son, and I wanted to be there firsthand, but Dad just got Grandma's mower and did the rest of Miss Canfield's grass. It's almost like, as an extension of the dad's pride, he doesn't want to embarrass himself through Greg's lousy work, and so he's doing it himself. When he was done, he didn't even ask her for any money. The trip was a total waste of time, though. It wasn't a total waste of time. They're going to have my ass over at the recorded books building for that. When Dad wrapped things up, I planted a sign right in front of Miss Canfield's yard. I figured out if I wasn't going to get paid, I might as well get some free advertising for all my trouble, and it says, another great job by the VIP lawn service. Saturday. The VIP lawn service has not really panned out like I thought it would. I haven't had any work since the first job, and I'm starting to think maybe Miss Canfield has been bad-mouthing me to the neighbors. I thought about just giving it up and closing our business, but then I realized that with a few weeks to the flyer, we could bring things back again in winter. VIP snow removal. The problem is I need the money now. Oh, holy smokes. This is what deck is about, dude. I called up Rally and started brainstorming new ideas, but his mom said that he was going to the movies with his dad. This Rally's dad character is really annoying, huh? I was a little annoyed, that's what I'm saying, because he never bothered to ask me if he could take the day off. Greg's pretty entitled, isn't he? Mom's not letting me do anything fun until this fruit smoothie bill is paid off, which meant that it came up to me to figure out how to earn some cash. I'll tell you who has a lot of money, and that's Manny. I mean, the kid is rich. A few weeks ago, Mom and Dad told Manny that they give him a quarter for every time he uses the potty without being asked. So now he carries around a gallon of water with him at all times. Manny keeps all of the money in a big drawer in his dresser. He's got to have at least $150 in that thing. I thought about asking Manny to lend me the money, but I can't bring myself to do that. I'm pretty sure Manny charges interest on his loans anyway. And Roderick is paying him. That's funny. I'm trying to figure out a way I can earn money without doing any actual work. But when I told Mom about what I was thinking, she said I'm just getting lazy. Okay, so maybe I am lazy, but it's not really my fault. I've been lazy ever since I was a little kid. Ever since he was a wimpy kid, I guess you could say. And if someone ever caught on to me early on, maybe I wouldn't be the way I am now. I remember in preschool, when playtime was over, the teacher would tell everyone to put their toys away, and we would all sing the cleanup song while we did it. Well, I sang the song with everybody else. I just didn't do any of the actual cleaning. So if you want to find someone to blame for the way I am, I guess you better start with the public education system. Sunday. Mom came into my room this morning and woke me up for church. I was glad to go because I knew it was I was going to have to turn to a higher power to get that fruit smoothie bill paid off. Whenever Grandma needs anything, she just prays, and she gets it right away. I think she has a direct pipeline to God or something. Dear Lord, please let me find a Dollar Savers coupon book. I guess, dog. For some reason, I don't have the same kind of pull, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit trying. Dear Lord, please let Mr. Jefferson get hit on the head so that he forgets about the money I owe him. And please let me get past the third level of Twisted Wither without having to use any of my bonus health packs. Amen, and thank you in advance. Wow. Today's sermon was about Jesus in disguise, and it was about how you should treat everyone you meet with kindness because you never know which person is really Jesus pretending to be somebody else. I guess that's supposed to make you want to be a better person, but all it does is make me paranoid because I know I'm just going to do something wrong. Nice, I guess. They passed the donation basket around like they do every week, and all I could think about it was I needed that money a lot more than whoever it was going to. It goes to hospitals and stuff like that, so he does not need it more than they do. But Mom must have seen the look in my eye because she passed the basket the row behind us before I could take what I needed. Monday. My birthday's coming up this weekend, and it can't get here quick enough for me. This year I'm finally going to have a family party. I'm really burned up... I'm still really burned up that Raleigh bailed on our lawn care business, so I don't want him thinking he can come over and eat my birthday cake. Plus, I've learned my lesson about friend parties. When you have a friend party, all your guests think they have the right to play with all of your presents. It's weird, I didn't think Greg had any friends. And every time I have a friend party, Mom invites her friends' kids, so I end up with a bunch of people at my party I barely even know. But I bet they're all gay too, just like Greg. Those kids don't buy their gifts, their moms do. So even if you do like something like a video game, it's not the video game you actually want to play. It's called Froggy plus Rough Learn About Sharing. That's awesome. I'm just glad I don't have to... What is this? I'm just glad I'm not on a swim team this summer. Last year I had practice on my birthday and Mom dropped me off at the pool. And she said, everybody be sure to wish Greg a happy birthday. And then I got so many birthday noogies I couldn't even lift my arms to swim. Classic Greg. I'm sure he wasn't good at it anyway. So when it comes to your birthday, I've learned that it's just best to keep kids out of the equation. Mom said I could have a family party as long as I promised not to do my usual with birthday cards. That stinks, because I have a great system for opening cards. I put them all in a neat pile, then I rip each one open and shake all the money out. As long as I don't stop to read anything, I can get through a pile of 20 cards in under a minute. Yeah, but he's not experiencing all the joy and love that are in those cards. Mom says the way I do it is insulting to the people who got me the cards. She says this time around I have to read every card and acknowledge the person who gave it to me. That'll slow down a little, but I guess it's worth it. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I want for this birthday this year. What I really want is a dog. I've been asking for a dog for the past 3 years, but Mom says we have to wait until Manny's completely potty trained before we can get one. Well, with the potty training racket Manny's been going on, that could take forever. The thing is, I know Dad wants a dog too. He even used to have one when he was a kid. I figured all Dad needs is one little nudge, and on Christmas last year I saw my chance. My Uncle Joe and his family stopped by our house, and they brought their dog Killer with them. I asked Uncle Joe if he wouldn't mind hinting to Dad to get us a dog, but the way Uncle Joe did it probably set my dog getting campaign back a few years. He said, "A boy needs a dog, Frank," and he hit the thing out of his hand. The other thing I have no chance of getting for my birthday this year is a cell phone, and I can thank Roderick for that. Mom and Dad got Roderick a cell phone last year, and he racked up a bill at least $300 the first month. Most of that was from Roderick calling Mom and Dad from his room in the basement to tell them to turn the heat up. So the only thing that I'm asking for this year is a deluxe leather recliner. My Uncle Charlie has one, and he practically lives in that thing. I bet he does. The main reason I want my own recliner is because if I had one, I wouldn't have to go up to my room after watching TV late at night. I could just sleep right in my chair. Plus, these recliners have all sorts of features like the neck massager and adjustable firmness and stuff like that. I figure I could use the vibrate feature to make Dad's lectures a lot more tolerable. And he says, and you need to stop leaving your dirty clothes in the bathroom, but he has the vibrator on so he can't hear them. And also, I mean, with what we know about Greg, that makes sense. The only reason I've ever, and look at this, the next page he's already going back to the salon. No surprise there. The only reason I've ever need to get up is to go to the bathroom. Maybe I should just wait until the next year when they ask for the recliner, because I bet they'll have taken care of that with the new model. And he's pooping into the recliner. That's nice. Thursday. I asked Mom to take me back to Bombshell's beauty salon again today, even though I didn't really need a haircut. I just felt like catching up on the town gossip. And everybody says, "Hi, Greg," because those are the only women that are ever going to be talking to him. And I'm sure he's fine with that. Annette, my hairstylist, said she heard from a lady who knows Mrs. Jefferson that me and Riley had a falling out. Apparently, Riley's heartbroken because I didn't invite him to my birthday party. Well, if Riley's upset, you wouldn't know it from looking at him. Every time I see Riley, he's palling around with his dad. So from the way he looks at it, he's already got himself a new best friend. I just want to say that I think it stinks that Riley gets to go to the country club even though he still owes money on the fruit smoothie bill. Unfortunately, Riley's chummy relationship with his dad is starting to affect my life. Mom says the way Riley and his dad hang out together is neat, and that me and Dad should go fishing or play catch in the front yard or something. But the thing is, me and Dad just aren't cut out for that kind of father-son stuff. The last time Mom tried to get me and Dad to do something like that together, it ended up with me having to pull him out of Rappahannock Creek. And you can see Greg is saying duck, but the dad thinks he's talking about an actual duck that he's seeing, and so he's saying where, but he's actually going to get hit by a branch in the boat. Mom won't let it go, though. She says that she wants to see more affection between Dad and us boys, and that's created some really awkward moments. Mom says I need to hug you guys. I can relate to that. Friday. Today I was watching TV, minding my own business, when I heard a knock at the front door. Mom said that there was a friend there to see me, so I think Riley must be coming to apologize. But it wasn't Riley. It was Fregley. And he says, "Hello, friend." After I recovered from the initial shock, I slammed the door in his face. I started to panic because I didn't know what Fregley was doing at my front door. After a few minutes went by, I looked out the side of the window, and Fregley was still standing there. I knew I had to take drastic measures, so I went up to the kitchen to call the cops. But Mom stopped me before I could finish dialing 911. Mom said she invited Fregley over. She said I've been seemed lonely ever since I had the fight with Riley, and she thought she'd set up a play date with Fregley. See, this is why I should never tell my mom about my personal business. This Fregley thing is going to be a total disaster. I've heard that a vampire can't come in unless you're... Oh boy, I'm losing my dog right now. I've heard that a vampire can't come inside in your house unless you invite him in, and I'll bet the same kind of deal with Fregley. And then there's a vampire trying to come in, and Greg doesn't let him in. So now I've got two things to worry about, the Muddy Hand and Fregley. And if you had to come to choose between that's how the professionals do it. And if I had to choose one to get me first, I'd take the Muddy Hand in a heartbeat. Something tells me Greg doesn't like Fregley very much. Why don't you go outside and play with Fregley? I think Fregley might be naked. Nice. Saturday. Well, that sounds like a good deal for Greg. I don't know what he's talking about. Saturday. Today was my birthday, and I guess things went more or less how I expected. The relatives started showing up at about 1. I asked Mom to invite as many people as possible so I could maximize my gift potential, and I got a pretty good turnout. And he says gifts go on the dining room table because he's egotistical and he only cares about physical things. I like to get to the chase on my birthday and get right to the gifts. So I told everyone to gather in the living room. I took my time with the cards, Just like Mom asked, it was a little painful, but I got a good haul, so it was worth it. And it says a special greeting and a how do you do for a special nephew. By golly, that's you. That's a great card. Unfortunately, as soon as I collected my checks, Mom confiscated the money to pay off Mr. Jefferson. You would have used that anyway, though, right? Then I moved on to the rad presents because these were a whole lot, or because there were, or what does that say? Because, but there weren't a whole lot of those. The first gift for Mom and Dad, it was small and heavy, which I thought was a good sign, but I was still pretty shocked when I opened it. And it's a Ladybug cellular telephone. My grandma has one of these. When I looked more closely, I found out it wasn't an ordinary cell phone. It was called a Ladybug. The phone didn't have a keypad on it or anything. It only had 2 buttons, one to call home and one for emergencies, so it's pretty much useless. All of my other gifts were clothes and other stuff I didn't really need. I was still hoping I might get that recliner. Once I realized there weren't any places Mom and Dad could hide a giant leather chair, I gave up looking. Then Mom told everyone it was time to go into the dining room for some cake. Unfortunately, Uncle Joe's dog, Killer, had beaten us to it. I was hoping Mom would go out and get me a new cake, but she just took a knife and cut away the parts the dog didn't touch. Mom cut me a big piece, but by that point I wasn't really in the mood for cake, especially not with Killer throwing up little birthday candles under the table. Sounds like it didn't go the way he wanted it to. Sunday. I guess Mom must have felt bad about my birthday went down, because she said today we'd go to the mall and get a makeup gift. Mom took Manny and Roderick along for the ride and said they could each pick out something, which was totally unfair because it wasn't their birthday yesterday. We walked around the mall for a while and ended up at the pet store. I was hoping we could pool our money for a dog, but Roderick seemed more interested in a different kind of pet. Mom handed us each a $5 bill and told us we could buy whatever we wanted, but $5 doesn't get you very far in a pet store. True that. I finally settled on this really cool angel fish that's all different colors. Roderick picked a fish too. I don't know what kind it is, but the reason Roderick chose it is because on the label on the tank said the fish was aggressive. Manny spent his $5 on fish food. At first I thought that was because he wanted to feed the fish that me and Roderick bought, but when he got home, Manny had eaten half the canister. Classic Manny. Monday. This is the first time I've had my very own pet, and I'm kind of getting into it. I fed my fish 3 times a day, and I keep his bowl really clean. I even bought a journal so I could keep track of everything that my fish does during the day. Just like this journal, because this is a journal, not a diary. That's a callback to the first book. I asked Mom and Dad if we could buy one of those aquariums where we could get a ton of fish to keep my little guy company. But Dad says aquariums cost money, and maybe I could ask for one for Christmas. See, this kind of sucks about being a kid. You only get 2 shots of getting stuff you want, and that's my birthday and Christmas. And then when those days do come, your parents mess things up and buy you a ladybug. If I had my own money, I could just buy whatever I wanted and not have to embarrass myself every time I needed to rent a video game or buy a piece of candy or something. I see. Anyway, I've always known that I'll eventually be rich and famous, but I'm starting to get a little concerned that that hasn't happened yet. I figured I'd at least have my own reality TV show by now. Egotistical Greg? I knew, obviously, yeah, of course. Last night I was watching one of those television shows where a nanny lives with a family for a week and then tells them all the ways they're screwing up. Well, I don't know if any of the women had a special nanny school or something, but that's the kind of job I was born to do. I just need to figure out how to get myself in line for a job when the nanny retires. And he says to the family, your house is a wreck, your kids have no manners, and hey, Mr. Johnson, you're not going out in that shirt, are you? And he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. A few years ago, I started collecting my personal mementos like book reports and old toys and stuff like that. Because my museum opens, I wanted to make sure it's packed with stuff that's interesting. In the Wimpy Kid. Can we get our own discount for our 3-month-old? Sorry, no exceptions. And that's the Greg Heffley experience. That's the museum he was talking about. But I don't know anything like lollipops But I don't keep anything like lollipop sticks that have my saliva on them because believe me, I do not need to be cloned. And then it's him as an adult and it's all his clones and they say, we need money. It's funny. When I'm famous, I'm going to have to make some life changes. I'll probably have to fly in private jets because if I fly in regular planes, I get really annoyed by people in the back trying to mooch off my first-class bathroom. The bathroom in the back is full and little Timmy really has to go. And then he's saying, hey, whoa, whoa, because he doesn't want them to use his first-class bathroom. Another thing famous people have to deal with is that their younger siblings ending up getting famous just because they're related, and then it's people filming the Manny show. The closest brush with fame I've got so far is when Mom signed me up for a modeling job a few years ago. I think her idea was to get pictures of me in clothes catalogs or something like that. But the only thing they used my picture for was a stupid medical book. And I've been trying to live it down ever since. And it says, your child and constipation. And it's Greg there. Tuesday. I spent the afternoon playing video games and catching up on the Sunday comics. I turned to the back page and there was an ad where Little Cutie usually is. And it says, want to be on the funny pages? We're looking for a talented cartoonist to write and draw a one-panel comic to replace Little Cutie. Can you tickle our funny bone? Man, I've been waiting forever for an opportunity like this. I had my own comic in school paper once, but this was my chance to hit it big time. The ad said they weren't accepting any animal comic strips, and I think I know why. There's a comic called Precious Poochie that's been running for about 50 years. The guy who wrote it died a long time ago, but they're still recycling his old comics. I don't know if they're funny or not, because to be honest with you, a lot of them don't make too much sense for me. Precious Poochie. I just can't seem to figure out what's all the fuss over these new fangled phonograph devices. And he's standing on a whatever it's called, a record player. I think that's a jab at Garfield, and I gotta say, back off, Jeff Kenny. You don't hold a candle to Dave Pilkey's work. Or no, that's the guy who made Captain Underpants. Jim Davis, he's who made Garfield. Watch out, dude. Anyway, the newspaper has tried to get rid of the comic a bunch of times, but whenever they try to cancel it, all the Precious Poochie fans come out of the woodwork and make a big stink. I guess people think the cartoon dog has their own pet or something. The last time they tried to cancel Precious Poochie, 4 busloads of senior citizens from Leisure Towers showed up at the newspaper office downtown, and they didn't leave until they got their way. Saturday. Mom was extra cheery this morning, and I knew that that couldn't be a good sign. At 10, she told us we all needed to get into the station wagon, and when I asked her where we were going, she said it was a surprise. I noticed Mom had packed sunscreen and bathing suits and stuff like that in the station wagon, so I thought we must be headed for the beach. But when I asked Mom if I was right, she said we were going to a place better than the beach. Whenever we were going, it was taking a long time to get there, and it wasn't that much fun sitting in the back seat with Roderick and Manny. Manny was sitting in between me and Roderick on the hump, and at one point Roderick decided to tell Manny that the hump was the worst seat in the car because it's the smallest and least comfortable. Well, that totally set Manny off, and he's crying. Eventually, Mom and Dad got sick of Manny's crying. Mom said I had to take a turn on the hump because I'm the second youngest and it was only fair. So every time Dad ran over a pothole, my head hit the roof of the car. At about 2 this morning, 2 p.m. What is it? I'm losing it. I was getting really hungry, so I asked Dad if we could stop for some fast food. Dad wouldn't pull it over because he said that people at fast food restaurants are idiots. Well, I think I know why he says that. Every time Dad goes to the fried chicken place over near the house, he tries to place an order through the trash can. Nice. I saw a sign for the pizza place, and I begged Mom and Dad to let us eat there. But I guess Mom was trying to save money because she came prepared. And she said, I packed healthy snacks. A half hour later, we pulled into a big parking lot, and I knew exactly where we were. Slipslide Water Park. We were at Slipslide Water Park. That's what I just said. Where we used to go as kids. And I mean really little kids. It's a place meant for Manny's age. Mom must have heard me and Roger groan in the back seat. Mom said you were going to have a great day as a family and it would be the highlight of our summer vacation. I have bad memories of this Slipslide Water Park. One time Grandpa took me there, and he left me on the water slide area for practically the whole day. He said he was going to go and read his book, and he'd meet me there in 3 hours. But I didn't actually go on any slides because of the sign at the entrance. And it says, under 48 inches must be accompanied with an adult. I thought you had to be 48 years old to ride, but it turns out the 2 little lines next number meant inches. So I basically wasted my day waiting for Grandpa to come back and get me, and then we had to leave. It's funny. Roderick had his bad memories of the Slipslide Water Park, too. Last year, the band got booked to do a show on the music stage they have near the wave pool. Roderick's band asked the park people if they could set them up with a smoke machine so they could do special effects during the show. But somebody screwed up, and they set Roderick's band up with a bubble machine instead. Sounds kind of cool, honestly. I found out the reason Mom took us to the water park today. It was half price for families. Unfortunately, it looked like just about every family in the state was there, too. When Mom got through the gates, Mom rented a stroller for Manny. I was convinced... That's not proper grammar. It says Mom twice in the same sentence. I convinced her to spend her money, I convinced her to spend a little more money to rent a double stroller because I knew it was going to be a long stay. And I wanted to conserve energy, and he's sitting in the stroller. What an a-hole. Mom parked the stroller near the wave pool, which was so crowded you could barely even see the water. After we put our sunscreen on and found a place to sit, I felt a few raindrops, and then I heard thunder. Then an announcement came over the loudspeaker. Due to lightning, the Slipslide Water Park is now closed. Thank you for coming, and have a nice day. Everyone hit the exits and got in their cars. But when all the people were trying to leave in the exact same time, it was a total traffic jam. Mom tried to entertain everyone by telling jokes. At first, Mom and Dad were encouraging him. Knock, knock. Who's there? Your underwear. And they say, ha ha, good one, Manny. But after a while, Manny's jokes didn't even make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 named Clive. That's awesome. We were low on gas, so we had to turn off the air conditioner and wait for the parking lot to clear up. Mom said she had a headache, and she went to the back to lie down. An hour after the traffic finally thinned out, we got onto the highway. Mom stopped for gas, and about 45 minutes later, we were home. Dad told me to wake Mom up, and when we looked at the back of the station wagon, Mom wasn't there. For a few minutes, nobody knew where she went. Then we realized the only place she could have gone out was the gas station. She must have gone out to use the bathroom when we stopped, and nobody noticed. Sure enough, that's where she was. I was glad to see her, but I don't think she was too happy to see us. Mom didn't really say anything on the ride back. Something tells me she's glad she's had her fill of family togetherness for a while. And that's good, because I have too. Sunday. I really wish we didn't have to go on that trip yesterday, because if we had stayed home, my fish would still be alive. Oh, the fish died! And that's really heartbreaking. Before we left the trip, I fed my fish, and Mom said I should feed Roderick's fish too. Roderick's fish was in the bowl on top of the refrigerator, and I'm pretty sure Roderick has his fed his fish and cleaned the bowl once. I think Roderick's fish is living off the algae growing in the glass. Isn't that just the fish's poop? When Mom saw Roderick's bowl, she thought it was disgusting. So she took his fish and put it in my bowl. When we got home from the water park, I went straight to the kitchen to feed my fish. But when he was gone, and it wasn't a big mystery what happened to him, I didn't even have time to feel sad about it because today was Father's Day, and we had to get in the car and go to Grandpa's for brunch. I'll tell you this, if I'm ever with Dad, I'm losing my mind. I'll tell you this, if I'm ever a dad, you're not going to see me dressing up in a shirt and tie going to Leisure Towers on Father's Day. I'm going to go off by myself and have some fun. But Mom said she thought it would be good for the 3 generations of Heffley men to be together. And then they're all sitting together. I guess they must have been picking at my food because Dad asked me what's wrong. I told him I was bummed out because my fish died. Dad said he didn't really know what it was like because he'd never had a pet die before. He said he used to have a dog named Nutty when he was a kid, but Nutty ran away to a butterfly farm. I've heard Dad tell this story about Nutty and the butterfly farm a million times, but I didn't want to be rude and cut him off. Then Grandpa spoke up and said he had a confession to make. He said Nutty didn't actually run away from the butterfly farm. Grandpa said what really happened was that he actually ran over the dog when he was backing his car out of the driveway. And then he's backing out of the driveway and he says, "Well, that's Frank's skateboard." Grandpa said he made up the butterfly farm story so that he didn't have to tell Dad the truth. But now they could have a good laugh over it. But Dad was mad. He told us to get in the car and he left Grandpa with a bill for brunch. Dad didn't say anything on the way home. He just dropped us off at the house and drove away. Dad was gone for a long time, and I was starting to think maybe he was just going to take the rest of the day for himself. But he showed up an hour later carrying a big cardboard box. I think I know what's in that box. Dad put the box on the floor, and believe it or not, there was a dog in there. Mom didn't seem too thrilled that Dad went out and bought a dog without checking with her first. I don't think Dad has ever even bought a pair of pants for himself without getting Mom's okay beforehand. But I think she could have seen that Dad was happy, so she let him keep it. And that benefits Greg, too. At dinner, Mom told us we should come up with a name for the dog. I wanted the name to be something cool like Shredder or Ripjaw, but Mom says those ideas were too violent. Manny's ideas were a whole lot worse, though. He wanted to name the dog an animal name like Elephant or Zebra. Zeeb, for short. Roderick liked the animal name idea, and he said we should call the dog Turtle. Turd, for short. Nice. Mom said we'd call the dog Sweetheart. I thought that was a really terrible idea because the dog is a boy, not a girl. But before any of us could fight it, Dad agreed with Mom's idea. Sweetie for short. I think Dad was willing to go along with just about anything Mom came up with if it meant we didn't have to take the dog back. But something tells me Uncle Joe would not approve of our dog's name, because remember, his dog's name is Killer or something. Dad told Roderick that he should go to the mall and buy a bowl with the dog's name printed on it. And here's what Roderick came back with, and it's a bowl that says Sweaty. I guess that's what you get when you send the family's worst speller to do your errands. That's good. Wednesday. I was really happy when we first got our dog, but now I'm starting to have second thoughts. The dog's actually been driving me crazy. A few nights ago, a TV commercial came on, and it showed some gophers popping in and out of the holes. Sweetie seemed pretty interested in that, and Dad said, "Where are the gophers, Sweetie? Where are they, boy?" That got Sweetie all riled up, and she started barking at the TV. Now Sweetie barks at the TV constantly, and the only thing that gets him to stop is when the commercial with the gophers comes back on. comes back on. Not comes backs on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to get killed. But what really bugs me about the dog is that he likes to sleep in my bed, and I'm afraid he'll bite my hand off if I try to move him. And he doesn't just sleep in my bed. He sleeps right smack in the middle. Dad comes to my room at 7 every morning to take Sweetie out. But I guess me and the dog have something in common, because they don't like to get out of bed in the morning either. So Dad turns the lights on and off to try and make the dog wake up. And he says, "Come on, Sweetie. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up." Something tells me that Dad really likes the dog. Yesterday, Dad couldn't get Sweetie to go outside, so he tried something new. He went to the front of the house and rang the doorbell, which made the dog shoot out of bed like a rocket. The only problem was he used my face as a launching pad. I've been there before. With cats, one time I woke up and it was sleeping on my face. It must have been raining outside this morning because when Sweetie came back, he was shivering and soaking wet. Then he tried to get under the covers with me to get warm. Luckily, the muddy hand has given me a lot of practice with this sort of thing, so I was able to keep him out. Thursday. The morning Dad wasn't able to get the dog out of the bed no matter what he tried. So he went to work, and about an hour later, Sweetie woke me up to take him outside. I wrapped myself in a blanket and then let the dog in the front yard and waited for him to do his business. But Sweetie decided to make a run for it, and I had to chase after him. Classic dog. You know, I was actually having a pretty decent summer until Sweetie came along. He's ruining the two things that are most important to me, television and sleep. And you know that Dad is always getting on my case about... And you know how Dad is always getting on my case about lying around all day? Well, Sweetie is twice as bad as me, but Dad's crazy about that dog. I don't think the feeling is mutual, though. Dad is always trying to get the dog to give him a kiss on the nose, but Sweetie won't do it. My cats kiss me on the nose, and they do more. It bit my nose one day. I can kind of understand why the dog doesn't like Dad, because Dad represents all the bad things about his life. The only person Sweetie really likes is Mom, even though she barely pays him any attention. And I can tell that's starting to drive Dad a little nuts. And she's saying, "Get down, Sweetie." I think Sweetie is just more of a ladies' man, so I guess that's something else we have in common. You're not fooling anybody, Greg. We know you're gay. It's only July? They happened in like 25 days? That's crazy. Saturday. Last night I was working on a new comic for to replace Little Cutie. I figured there would be a lot of competition for the open slot, and so I wanted to come up with something that really stood out. I made up this comic called Hey People. That's sort of like a half cartoon, half advice column. I figure I can use it to make the world a better place. Or at least a better place for me. Let's see. I guess, when ordering at a fast food restaurant, try to decide what you want before you get to the front of the line. My toenail is so ingrown, the doctor took an hour to dig it out. When in public, kindly refrain to discussing your recent surgery. I figured since Dad reads the comics, I might as well write a few that were specifically targeted at him. After you're done with your shower, please rinse the hair off your soap. I would have written a bunch of comics last night, but Sweetie was driving me crazy and I couldn't concentrate. While I was drawing, the dog was sitting on my pillow, licking its paws on its tail, and it was really getting into it. Whenever Sweetie does that, I have to remember to flip my pillow around when I go to bed. Last night I forgot, and I lay down right in its wet spot. Speaking of licking, Sweetie finally kissed Dad last night. It's probably because Dad had potato chips on his breath, but I think dogs have an automatic response to that sort of thing. I didn't have the heart to tell Dad that Sweetie had just spent half an hour on my pillow licking his rear end. Anyway, I'm hoping I can write a few more comics tonight because I'm not going to be able to do any work what did I say? I'm not going to be able to get any work done tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 4th of July, which means that today is the 3rd of July. And Mom is making the whole family go down to the town pool. I tried to get out of it, mostly because I want to make it through the summer without having to walk past the shower guys, but I think Mom's still hoping to have one perfect family day this summer, so there's no use fighting it. Monday. My 4th of July started out pretty rough. When I got to the pool, I tried to get through the shower locker room as quickly as I could, but the shower guys were really chatty, and I just didn't make it easy on me. "Hey, Greg, how's the family?" Why do they know him? By name, that's weird. Then Mom told me that she left her sunglasses out in the car, and I had to go back through the shower area to the parking lot. I wore Mom's sunglasses on the return trip to make it clear I wasn't interested in conversation, but that didn't work out too good either. "Hey, Greg, where'd you get those cool shades?" This guy's a pedophile, I think. Seriously, I wish those guys would just take a shower at home before they came to the pool. Because once you see somebody like that, you can never look at them the same way again. After I got past the locker room, things didn't get a whole lot better. The scene was just about how I remembered it, except more crowded. I guess everyone had the same idea for the 4th of July at the pool. The only time the pool cleared out was when the lifeguard called a 15-minute rest break and all the kids had to get out of the water. I think the idea behind the rest breaks is to give the adults a little time to enjoy the pool, and I don't know how they're supposed to relax with 300 kids waiting for the break to be over. When I was younger, I used to just go swim in the baby pool during the 15-minute rest break, but that was before I I knew what went in there. And if there's a kid that says, "Mama, I'm peeing," that's in the movie too. The only area of the pool I wasn't able to complete madhouse was the deep end, and that's where the diving boards are. I haven't been in the deep end since I was about 9 years old. There's a book in this series called The Deep End too, when Roderick talked me into jumping off the high dive. Roderick was always trying to get me off to jump off the high dive, but the tall ladder seemed really scary to me. He told me I needed to conquer my fears or I'd never become a man. Then one day, Roderick told me that there was a clown on the top of the diving board who was handing out free toys, and that got my attention. But by the time I realized Roderick was full of baloney, it was too late, and he pushed him off. Anyway, today Mom told everyone to go to the picnic area because they were giving out free watermelon. This Mom's a real cheapskate. But I've got a fear of watermelon too. Roderick is always telling me that if you eat the seeds, then you get a watermelon growing in your stomach. Well, I don't know if that's the truth or not, but school's only a couple months away, so I'm not willing to risk. And there's a thing of him pregnant in this. When it started getting dark, everyone put their blankets out on the lawn to watch the fireworks display. We started staring up at the sky for a long time, but nothing was happening. Then someone came on the loudspeaker and said that the show was canceled because someone let the fireworks out in the rain last night and they got soaked. Some little kids started to cry, so a couple of grown-ups tried to create their own fireworks show. Luckily, the fireworks display at the country club down the street started right about then. It was a little hard to see over the trees, but at that point, I don't think anybody really cared. I can relate to that too. Tuesday. This morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table flipping through comics, and I came across something that almost made me spit out my cereal. It was a 2-page back-to-school ad, right where any kid could see it. It says, "Back-to-school blowout sale." I can't believe it's actually legal to run a back-to-school ad 2 months before school starts. Anyone who would do that really must hate kids. I'm sure back-to-school ads are going to start popping up all over the place now, and next thing you know, Mom's going to tell me it's time to go back to school shopping. And with Mom, that's an all-day affair. And it says those saddle shoes are on sale. So I asked Mom if Dad could take me school shopping instead, and she said yes. I think she saw it as a kind of father-son bonding opportunity. But I told Dad he could just go without me and pick out whatever he wanted. Nice. Well, that was a dumb move because Dad did all of his shopping at the pharmacy. Before I saw that ad, my day was bad enough already. It rained again this morning, so Sweetie tried to get under the covers with me and took me out. I guess I must have been a little off my game because the dog found a gap between the blanket and the bed and managed to get through. And let me tell you, there's nothing more terrifying than being trapped under your covers wearing nothing but underwear with your wet dog crawling over you. I've never gotten sleeping in your underwear. I don't know. It's just, I just sleep in clothes. I don't know. I was stewing about in the dog back to school. I was stewing around about the dog in the back to school ad when my whole day turned around. Mommy printed out some of my pictures from the 4th, and she left them lying on the kitchen table. In one of the pictures, I could see a lifeguard in it in the background. It was a little hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure the lifeguard was Heather Hills. I'm sure he's just interested in being friends with her because he's gay. It was so crowded at the pool yesterday, I didn't even notice the lifeguards. And if there really was Heather Hills, I can't believe I missed her. Heather Hills is the sister of Holly Hills, who is the cutest girl in my class. But Heather's in high school, which is a whole different league than middle school. This Heather Hills thing is changing my whole perspective on the town pool. In fact, I'm starting to rethink my whole summer. The dog has ruined all the fun of being at home, and I realize that if I don't do something quick, I won't have anything good to say about my vacation. So starting tomorrow, I'm going to have a whole new attitude, and hopefully by the time I get back to school, I'll have a high school girlfriend too. I guess, Greg. Wednesday. Mom was really happy I was willing to go to the pool with her and Mandy today, and she said I was proud that I was finally putting my family in front of video games. I didn't mention Heather Hills to Mom because I didn't need her getting in the middle of my love life. I hope I have enough storage to record this. When we got there, I went straight to the pool area to see if Heather Hills was on duty, but then I realized I better be prepared just in case she was. So I made a pit stop in the bathroom and lathered myself in suntan lotion. Then I did a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups to make my muscles pop. I was probably in there for about 15 minutes. I was checking myself in the mirror when I heard someone in the stall clear their throat. Well, that was pretty embarrassing because it meant whoever was doing that could see me flexing in front of the mirror the whole time. And if that person was anything like me, he couldn't go to the bathroom unless he had complete privacy. I figured the person in the stall couldn't see my face, so at least they didn't know who I was. I was just about to slip out of the bathroom when I heard Mom at the front of the locker room. Gregory Heffley, are you still in there? Mom wanted to know what took so long and why I was shiny, but I was already looking past her to scanning the lifeguard deck to see if Heather Hills was there. And sure enough, she was. I went right over to her and packed myself underneath a chair. Every once in a while, I'd say something witty, and I think I was definitely impressing her. Does Miss Argentina really think it's a good idea to wear a bikini when she's 8 months pregnant? Miss Argentina, what a name. I get Heather a new cup of water whenever it looks like she needs a refill, and every time some kid would do something wrong, I'd speak up so Heather didn't have to. This kid is such a freaking loser. Whenever Heather's shift ended, I'd follow her to the next station. Every fourth time, I'd end up in front of where her mom was sitting. And let me tell you, it's not easy to smooth over. It's not easy to be smooth when your mother is 5 feet away. I guess not. I just hope Heather knows that I would do anything for her. Jesus Christ. If she wants someone to put suntan lotion on her back or towel her off after she takes a dip in the pool, I'm the man for the job. I basically hung out with Heather until the morning when it was time to go. Until it was time to go. I'm losing my mind. On the way back home, I was thinking that if the rest of the vacation goes like today, this will be the best summer ever, just like Mom predicted. In fact, the only thing that can ruin my things now is that stupid muddy hand. I'm sure it'll show up the exact wrong moment and spoil everything. And he's at his wedding with Holler Hill, whatever her name is, which isn't going to happen because he's gay. And the hand is coming. Wednesday. I've been hanging out with Heather every single day for the past week. I realized my friends at school will never believe it when they told them about Heather. So I asked for my mom to take a picture of me standing next to the lifeguard chair. Mom didn't have a camera, so she had to use her cell phone. But she couldn't figure out to take a picture with me, so I ended up standing there for a long time looking like a fool. Finally, I got Mom to press the right button to take the picture, but even when she did, the camera was pointed the wrong way, and she took a picture of herself. See, this is why I always say that technology is wasted on grown-ups. I got Mom to point the camera at me, but right at that moment, her phone rang and she answered it. Hello? Barbara? Is that really you? Oh. Mom talked for about 5 minutes, and by the time she was done, Heather was on to her next shift. But that didn't stop Mom from taking the picture anyway, and it's next to an old, hairy guy. Friday. Relying on Mom for my ride to the pool is starting to become a problem. Mom doesn't want to go to the pool every day, and when she does go, she only stays a few hours. I like to be in the pool from the time it opens until the time it closes, so I can maximize my time with Heather. I wasn't about to ask Roger to drive me to the pool in his van, because he always makes me sit in the back, and there are no seats. I realized I need my own transportation, and luckily I found a solution yesterday. One of our neighbors left a bike by the curb, and I took it before anyone else could. I rode the bike home and parked it in the garage. When Dad saw it, he said it was a girl bike, and I should get rid of it. But I'll tell you 2 reasons a girl bike is better than a boy bike. No surprise here. I mean, one is because there's a third reason, and it's because he's gay. Number 1, girl bikes have big cushiony seats, and that's really important when you're riding in your bathing suit. And number 2, girl bikes have those baskets on the handlebars, which are really good for carrying video games or suntan lotion. Plus, my bike came with a bell, and that really comes in handy. Monday. I guess I should have known that bike that was left out in the trash wasn't going to last very long. I was riding home from the pool yesterday, and the bike started getting all wobbly. Then the front wheel popped off. So today I had to ask Mom for a ride to the pool. When I got there, Mom said she was going to take Manny with me to the locker room. Or no, she said I had to take Manny with me to the locker room. She said he's getting too old to go through the women's locker room with her, so I guess I must have the shower. They must have the same shower situation in there that they do in the men's locker room. It should have taken about 5 seconds for Manny to get from one end of the locker room to the other, but it took about 10 minutes instead. Manny gets everywhere. I'm losing it. Manny goes everywhere with Mom, so he had never actually been in a men's locker room before. He was really curious and wanted to check everything out. At one point, I had to stop him from washing his hands in the urinal because he thought it was a sink. I didn't want Manny to have to walk through the shower area and see things I've seen. So I put a towel out of the bag and was going to put it over Manny's eyes when we walked through the shower, guys. But in the 2 seconds it took me to get the towel, Manny was gone. And you'll never believe where he went. He's showering with all of the guys with their penises out. That's nice. And the penises are really drawn in this book. I knew I had to rescue Manny, so I closed my eyes as tight as I could and went in to save him. Jesus Christ. I was really nervous about touching one of the shower guys. And for a second there I thought I did. I had to open my eyes to find Manny, and then I grabbed him as fast as I could. When we were on the other side, Manny seemed fine, but I don't really think I'll recover from that experience. I was kind of staggered over the spot underneath the Heather's lifeguard chair. Then I started taking deep breaths to calm myself down. 5 minutes after that, some kid who must have eaten too much ice cream threw up behind Heather's chair. Heather looked behind her, and then she looked down like she was waiting for me to do something. I guess the noble thing was to clean up the mess, but I'm really beyond that call of duty. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and I've realized I need to let this summer romance cool off for a while. Plus, Heather's going off to college next year, and those long-distance relationships never really seem to work out. I guess, Doug. August. Well, July went way faster than August. Tuesday. We ran into the Jeffersons at the supermarket today. Me and Riley haven't spoken to each other in over a month, so it was kind of awkward. Miss Jefferson said that they were buying groceries for their trip to the beach next week. That kind of irritated me because that's where my family usually goes this summer. But Miss Jefferson said something that really threw me for a loop. How would Gregory like to join us? Mr. Jefferson didn't look too thrilled with that idea, but before he could speak up, Mom chimed in. Why, Gregory would love to. Something about this whole incident seemed a little fishy to me. I'm wondering if it was a setup with Mom and Miss Jefferson conspiring to get me and Riley back together. Believe me, Riley's the last person I want to spend my week with. But then I realized that if we went to the beach with the Jeffersons, I get to ride in the cranium shaker, so maybe my summer won't be such a bust after all. Monday. I knew I made a mistake coming to the beach trip when I saw where we were staying. Quiet Cove. My family always rents a condo in the high-rises near the boardwalk. My family does that too! But the place where the Jeffersons are staying is in a log cabin about 5 miles away from the beach. We went into the cabin, and there was no TV or computer or anything with a screen on it. I asked what we were supposed to do for entertainment, and Miss Jefferson said, "You could read a book." These people are losers. I thought that was a good one, and I was about to tell Riley his mom was pretty funny, but then she came back later with a bunch of reading material. So that just confirmed Mom was on the plan from this for the beginning. All three Jeffersons read their books right up until it was time to eat. Dinner was okay, but dessert was awful. Miss Jefferson is one of those moms who sneaks healthy food into your snacks, and her brownies were full of spinach. I don't think it's a good idea to grind vegetables up and put them in kids' desserts, because then I don't know what the real thing is supposed to taste like. Well, Riley's pretty fat, so that makes sense. The first time Riley had a regular brownie at my house, and believe me, it wasn't pretty. After dinner, Mr. Jefferson called us all into the living room to play games. I was hoping we were going to play a normal game like cards, but the Jeffersons have their own idea of fun. The Jeffersons played a game called I Love You Because, and when it was my turn, I passed. And Riley's mom says, "I love you because you're silly and you make me laugh." Then we played charades, and when it was Riley's turn, he was a dog. Rough, and they say a cute, adorable boy, an awesome, friendly kid. And this is a callback, or well, no, I guess they planted the seed here, but then they made a book called Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid, and Riley says he called it that because his dad called him that, so that's actually a pretty cool piece of continuity. Ow, Jesus Christ. I saw a picture of Greg sleeping with Riley in the same bed. At 9 p.m., Miss Jefferson told us it was time for bed. That's when I found out that the sleeping situation in the Jefferson cabin was worse than the entertainment situation. There was only one bed, so I told Riley we could make a deal. We'd flip a coin and one guy would get the bed and the other would sleep on the floor. But Riley told me that this crusty shag carpet and decided he wouldn't want to risk it. I decided I wasn't willing to sleep on the floor either, so I got into the bed with Riley and I stayed away as far away from him as possible. Riley started snoring right away, but I was having trouble falling asleep with my body half hanging off the bed. I was finally starting to drift off when Riley let out a scream like he was being attacked. For a second, I thought that the muddy hand had finally caught up to us. Riley's parents came running in as soon as that happened, and his dad was wearing pajamas. What a freaking loser. Riley said he had a nightmare that there was a chicken hiding underneath him. So Riley's parents spent the next 20 minutes trying to calm him down and telling him there was a bad dream, and there really was no chicken. Really? That's what Riley's saying. Nobody bothered to check on how I was doing after falling off the bed onto my face. Riley spent the rest of the night sleeping in his parents' room, which was fine by me, because without Riley and his chicken dreams to keep me awake, I was actually able to get a good night's sleep. Wednesday. I've been stuck in this cabin for 3 days now, and I'm starting to really lose my mind. I've been trying to get Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson to take us outside to the boardwalk, but they say it's too noisy there. I've never gone this long without TV or computers or video games, and I'm starting to feel a little desperate. When Mr. Jefferson works late at night on his laptop, I sneak downstairs to watch just a glimpse of the outside world. Jesus Christ. I've tried to get Mr. Jefferson to let me use his laptop a couple of times, but he says it's his work computer. He doesn't want me to mess anything up. Last night, I was at my breaking point, so I did something a little risky. When Mr. Jefferson got up to use the bathroom, I jumped at my chance. I rattled off an email to Mom as quick as I could, and I ran upstairs to get into bed. To Heffley Susan, subject SOS. Help, get me out of here. These people are driving me crazy. I went downstairs for breakfast this morning. Mr. Jefferson didn't look too happy to see me. It turns out when I sent that email from Mr. Jefferson's work account and Mom answered back, family communications can be a challenge. Is Gregory not behaving himself? I thought Mr. Jefferson was really going to let me have it, but he didn't say anything at all. Then Mr. Jefferson said maybe we could go to the boardwalk this afternoon and spend an hour or two there. Well, that was something that's all I've ever been asking for. A few hours is all I really need. If I can just ride the cranium shaker once, I'll feel like this trip wasn't a complete waste of time. Friday. I'm back home from the beach 2 days early, and if you want to know the reason why, it's kind of a long story. The Jeffersons took me and Riley to the boardwalk yesterday afternoon. I wanted to go on the cranium shaker right away, but the line was too long, so we decided to get some food and come back later. We got some ice cream, but Miss Jefferson only ordered one cone for the four of us to share. And he says, "Want a lick?" Mom gave the $30 to spend at the beach, and I blew 20 of it on this carnival game. I was trying to win this giant stuffed caterpillar, but I think those games are rigged so that you can't succeed. Riley watched me blow $20, and then he asked his dad to buy him the exact same caterpillar at the shop next door. And the thing that really stinks is that it only cost him $10. I think Riley is making a big mistake with a move like that. Now Riley feels like he's just a winner, even though he isn't. I've had my own experience with that sort of thing. Last year when I went on the swim team, they had this own special swim meet that I got invited to on Sunday. Oh, this is the swim meet for all the ones that stink. When I showed up, I realized that none of the good swimmers were there. It was only the kids who had never won a ribbon before. At first, I was really happy because I thought I might actually win something for once. I still didn't do well, though. My event was the 100-meter freestyle, and I got so pooped I had to walk the last lap. But the judges didn't disqualify me. At the end of the night, I got a first-place ribbon, which my parents handed to me. In fact, everyone walked away with a first-place ribbon. Even Tommy Lamb, who turned around in the backstroke and swam the wrong way. You're a winner to us. Nice. I've never actually really gotten a participation trophy or anything like that. When Mom got home, I was confused. But then Roderick saw me with his first-place champions ribbon, and he gave me the scoop. Roderick told me that the champions meet is just a scam all the parents put on to make their kids feel like winners. I guess parents think they're doing their kids a favor by going through with all that, but if you ask me, I think it just causes more problems down the road. I remember when I used to be on the t-ball team, and everyone would cheer on me when I struck out. Then the next year in junior baseball, all my teammates and the other parents would boo me off the field if I dropped a pop fly or something. All I'm saying, if Riley's parents really want to make him feel good about himself, they can't do it now when he's just a kid and then walk away. They've got to stick with him through all the way. And his dad is really old and Riley's doing a bad job, but he still says, "Good job, Riley." After the caterpillar thing, we just walked down the boardwalk, waiting for the cranium shaker to go down. Then I saw something that got my attention. There was the girl from Roderick's keychain picture. But here's the thing, it wasn't a real person. It was just a cardboard cutout. I feel like a real idiot for ever thinking that that was a real girl. Then I realized I could buy my own keychain and impress all the guys at my school. I might even be able to make some money by charging them to look at it. But $5, I paid my $5 to post for the photo. Unfortunately, the Jeffersons got into the picture with me, so now my souvenir keychain is pretty much worthless. I was really mad, but I forgot all about it when I saw the line for the cranium shaker was down to a few people. I ran over to the ride and used my last $5 to pay for a ticket. I thought Riley was right behind me, but he was hanging back about 10 feet. I guess that he was too scared to go on. I was starting to have my second thoughts myself, but it was too late. After the ride operator strapped me in, he locked the cage, and I knew there was no turning back. I was on a Catwoman whip one time in Atlanta, Georgia, and it made everybody sick. Just a good story. Well, I wish I had spent more time watching what the cranium shaker actually did, because I never would have gotten on it if I had. It flips you around upside down about 1,000,000 times and then throws you forward toward the ground. Your face is about 6 inches from the pavement. Then it spins you backwards up into the sky again. The whole time the cage you're in is creaking like all the bolts are about to come loose. I tried to get someone to stop the ride, but nobody could hear me because of the pounding heavy metal music. I'm losing my mind. It was the most nauseous I've ever felt in my life, and when I say that, I mean even more than after I had to get Manny out of the shower area at the pool. If this is what it takes to be a man, I'm definitely not ready yet. When the ride finally ended, I could barely walk, so I sat down on a bench and waited for the boardwalk to stop spinning. I stayed there a long time and focused on trying not to throw up. Riley rode some rides that were more his speed, and it's like kiddie bumper boats. After Riley was done with the kiddie rides, his dad brought him a boppy balloon and a shirt from the souvenir shop. I survived the cranium shaker. A half hour later, I was finally ready to standing up and walking again, but when I got on my feet, Mr. Jefferson said it was time to go. I asked him if we could just play a few more games in the arcade, and he said it was okay, but he didn't seem happy about it. I had spent all my money that Mom gave me, so I had told Mr. Jefferson $20 would probably do it, but all he was willing to offer me was $1. I think the arcade was too loud for Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson, so they didn't go inside. They told us to just go in ourselves and meet them out in 10 minutes. I went to the back of the arcade, where they had this game called Thundervolt, and I got the high score. I spent about $50 on the game last year, and I got the high score. I really wanted Riley to see my name at the top of the list, and I wanted to show him what it takes to win something without it being handed to you. When I got my name was still at the top of the list, but the person who got the next highest score must have been jealous they couldn't beat me. And then it says, number 1 is Greg Heffley, number 2 is an idiot. Wow. I unplugged the machine and tried to wipe the high scores, but they were burned into the screen permanently. I was going to spend our money on some other game, but I remembered a trick Roger told me, and then I realized that we can make this dollar last a lot longer. That doesn't make any sense, because I would want to keep my name on it, because it would just show people how salty they are that they can't be as good as me. Me and Riley walked outside and went underneath the boardwalk. Then I slipped the dollar bill up between the planks of the wood and waited for our first victim. Eventually, a teenager spotted the dollar bill from the boardwalk. It said, "Score!" Then, when he was about to grab it, I pulled the dollar bill through the slat in the last second. I have to hand it to Roger, because that was actually a lot of fun. The teenagers we pranked weren't too happy, though, and they came after us. Me and Riley ran as fast as we could, and we didn't stop until we were pretty far from those guys. But I still didn't feel safe. I asked Riley to show me one of those moves he had learned in karate so we could handle ourselves if they had found us. But Riley said he's got a gold belt in karate, and he wasn't going to teach his moves to a no belt. We hit there a while more. Or no, we hid there a while more, but the teenagers never showed up, and eventually we decided the coast was probably clear. That's when we realized that underneath Kittyland, where there were a whole new batch of victims for our dollar trick right above our heads, and we got so much better reaction out of the kids than we did from the teenagers. But one of the kids was really fast, and he grabbed the dollar before we could pull it down, so me and Riley went up to the boardwalk to get it back. The kid wasn't budging, though. I tried to explain the concept of personal property to him, but he still wouldn't give us our money. I was pretty frustrated with this kid, and that's when Riley's parents showed up. I was pretty glad to see them. I figured if anyone could talk this sense into this kid, it was Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Jefferson was mad, and I mean really mad. He said he and Miss Jefferson had been looking all over us for the past hour, and they were ready to call the police to report us missing. Then he told us that we were getting in the car. But on the way from the parking lot, we walked past the arcade. I asked Mr. Jefferson if we could please have another dollar since we never did get to spend the money he gave us. But I was pretty sure that wasn't the right thing to do because he took us back to the car without saying a word. When we got to the back of the cabin, Mr. Jefferson said we had to go straight to our room. That really stunk because it wasn't even 8 and it was still light outside. But Mr. Jefferson said we had to go to bed and that he didn't want to hear a peep from us until the morning. Riley was really taking it hard. From the way he was acting, I don't think his dad's ever been this mad at him before. I decided to lighten the mood a bit. I walked around on the shag carpet and gave Riley a static electricity shock as a joke. It seemed to get Riley a snap out of it. He walked around the circle for 5 minutes, rubbing his feet on the carpet, and then he got me back while I was brushing my teeth. I couldn't let Riley one-up me like that, so when he got into bed and I got his boppy balloon, I pulled the giant rubber band and let it rip. That really hurts. I've had that happen before. If I had to do it again, maybe I wouldn't have pulled back so hard. When Riley saw the red mark on his arm, he screamed, and I knew that was going to attract attention. Sure enough, his parents were up in the room in 5 seconds. He burned me. I tried to explain that the mark on Riley's arm was from a rubber band, but that didn't seem to matter to the Jeffersons. They called my parents, and 2 hours later, Dad was at the cabin to pick me up and take me home. Monday. Dad's been really mad that he had to drive 4 hours round trip to come get me, but Mom wasn't as mad at all. She said the incident between us with Riley was just horseplay, and she was glad that we were pals again. But Dad was still really mad, and he's been really chilly between us ever since I got back. Mom's been trying to get the two of us to do something like go to the movies so we can make peace, but I think that right now it's just best for me and Dad to stay out of each other's way. I think Dad's in a bad mood is here to stay, though, because part of it has nothing to do with me. When I opened today's paper, here's what I saw in the arts section. Arts. Beloved comic to continue. This is what I said! His son is doing the little cutie to be carried out by the cartoonist's son. I called it at the start of... That was an hour and a half ago, Jesus Christ. Last night, Dad came into my room and talked to me, which was the first time we had spoke to each other in about 3 days. He said he wanted to make sure I was around on Sunday, and I said that I would be. Later on, I heard him talking to someone on the phone, and he seemed like he was kind of secretive. Yes, and I'll leave him with enough food and water for a week. After that, I asked Dad if he was taking me anywhere particular on Sunday, and he said the thought of that made him really uncomfortable. He said no, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. Now I knew Dad wasn't telling the truth, so I kind of got worried. Dad was willing to ship me off to military academy before. That happened in The Last Straw, the earlier book. And I knew, and I wouldn't put anything past him. I didn't know what to do, so I told Roderick what was going on and asked him if he had any theories about what his dad was up to. He told me that he'd think about it, and after a while later, he came into my room and shut the door. Roderick told me that Dad was so mad at me and Riley that he was going to get rid of me. I wasn't sure if I believed him, because this is a lot funnier than I remember, because Roderick is not always 100% reliable. But Roderick told me if I didn't believe him, he should go check out Dad's day planner to see for myself. So I went into Dad's office and opened his calendar to Sundays, and here's what I found. August 22nd, Sell Greg. I'm pretty sure Roderick was pulling my leg because it didn't look an awful lot like his handwriting. But Dad's kind of an unpredictable guy, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see how Sunday goes to know for sure. Sunday. The good news is that Dad didn't sell me or give me away to an orphanage today. The bad news is after what happened, he probably will. At about 10 this morning, Dad said they needed to get in the car because he was going to take me into the city. When I asked what for, he said it was a surprise. On the way to the city, we stopped for gas. Dad had left me a map and directions on the dashboard for the car, so now I knew where we were going. 1200 Bayside Street. They'd probably call it 1200 Bayside Street. Well, I was getting pretty desperate, so for the first time ever, I used my ladybug. I finished my call right before Dad came back into the car, and we were headed to the city. I would just wish I had taken a better look at the map, because when we pulled into Bayside Street, I realized that it was the parking lot for the baseball stadium. But then it was too late. It turns out Mom bought us tickets to see the baseball game for some special father-son bonding time, and Dad was trying to keep it a surprise. But the police showed up. But it took Dad a long time to explain that it took Dad a long time to explain all that to the cops. After he cleared things up with the police, Dad wasn't in the mood for a baseball game, so he just took us home. I felt kind of bad because the seats Mom got us were in the third row, and it looked like they cost a fortune, and then the officers were in their seats. That's funny. Tuesday. I finally found out what the cell phone was about the other day. The cell phone. What the phone call was about the other day. We're so close, and my phone is about to run out of storage. Dad had been on the phone with Grandma, and they were talking about Sweetie, not me. Mom and Dad had decided to give the dog to Grandma, and Dad dropped Sweetie off on Sunday night. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone's really going to miss him around here. Me and Dad haven't talked to each other since then, and I've been looking for excuses to stay out of the house. I found a really good one yesterday. There was a commercial on TV for the store called the Game Hut, which is where I buy all my video games. They're having a competition where if you play at your local store, and if you win, you get to advance to the national playoffs. And if the winner of that gets $1 million, holy smokes. The competition at the local store starts on Saturday. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of people at that thing, so I'm going to go super early and make sure I get a good place in line. I learned that trick from Roderick. Whenever he gets tickets to a concert, he camps out the night before. In fact, that's where he met his band's lead singer, Bill. Bill, dude. What a guy. Riley and his dad go camping all the time, so I knew that we had a tent. I called Riley and told him about the video game contest and how we could win $1 million. But Riley was acting nervous on the phone. I think he was still worried that if he had electrical superpowers or something, and that the only way to get him to calm down was to promise I wouldn't use them on him. Even after that, we were past that, Riley didn't seem comfortable with the camp-out idea. He said his mom and his dad banned him from seeing me for the rest of the summer. I was pretty much figured that, but I had a plan to get around it. I told Riley that I'd tell my parents I was going to his house to spend the night, and that we could go to and that he could tell his parents that he was going to Collins, who, if you don't know who Collins is. Riley still didn't seem to care, and I told him that I'd bring his very own box of gummy bears if he came along. And that sold him. Saturday. Last night we met at the top of the hill at 9 p.m. Riley brought his camping equipment and sleeping bag, and I brought a flashlight and some chocolate energy bars. I didn't have the gummy bears right at that moment, but I promised Riley I'd buy some the first chance he got. When he got to the game hut, we were the only people there, and I couldn't believe our luck. So we pitched out our tent in front of the store before anyone else could take our spot. Then we watched the door to make sure nobody tried to cut in front of us. I figured the best way to save our place was to sleep in shifts. I even offered to take the first shift and let Riley sleep, because that's just the kind of person I am. After the shift was over, I woke Riley up for his turn, and he fell back asleep in about 5 seconds. So I shook him awake and told him he needed to stay alert. Riley didn't even bother trying to defend himself. I don't even really like video games. I decided it was up to me to make sure nobody got in front of us, so I stayed up all night. I was starting to have trouble keeping my eyes open around 9 in the morning, and I ate both of the energy bars I packed to keep myself going. The chocolate got all over my hands, and that gave me an idea. I opened up the tent flap and slipped my hand inside and made it crawl like a spider. I thought it would be funny to make Riley think it was the muddy hand. I didn't hear any noises coming from inside the tent, and I thought Riley was still sleeping. But before I had a chance to open the flap and check, my hand got crushed to smithereens, and Riley is hitting his hand with a mallet. I pulled my hand out of the tent to see my thumb was already starting to turn purple. I was really ticked off at Riley, not because he smashed my hand with a mallet, but because he thought that it would stop the muddy hand. Any fool knows you either have to use fire or acid to stop a muddy hand. All the mallet's going to do is make it angry. I was about to give Riley a piece of my mind, but right then the guy at the game hut had opened the door. I tried to ignore my throbbing pain in the thumb and focus on the reason we were here. The game hut guy wanted to know why we had a tent in front of the store, so I told him that we were here to compete in a video game contest. But he didn't know what I was talking about. So I had to show him the poster from the window to get him up to speed. The clerk said the store wasn't really set up for a video game tournament at the moment, but since there were only 2 of us, maybe he could just play each other in the back room. I was a little irritated at first, but when I realized all I needed to do to win this tournament was to beat Riley. So the clerk set us up to play a death match in Twisted Wizard. I almost felt sorry for Riley because I'm pretty much an expert at that game. But when we started to play, I realized my thumb was so messed up I couldn't press the buttons on the controller. All I could do was run in circles while Riley shot me over and over. Riley ended up beating me 15-0. The clerk told Riley he won the competition, and I had a choice. He could either fill out the form, or he had a choice. He could either fill out the paperwork to go to the national tournament, or he could get a giant box of chocolate-covered raisins. And I bet you can pick which one. I bet you can guess which one Riley picked. I'm losing it, all right? Sunday. You know, I should have just stuck with my original plan this summer and stayed inside all of the summer. This is another bad grammar moment, because all of the trouble started at the minute I stepped out of the house. I haven't seen Riley since the whole video game competition for me. Since he stole that video game competition for me, it's bad. and Dad hasn't spoken to me since I almost got him arrested. But I think things are starting to turn around for me and Dad. You remember that article about how Lil Cutie was being passed on from father to son? Well, the son's first comic came out in the paper today, and it looks like the new Lil Cutie is going to be even worse than the original. Daddy, can you make my hiccups hick down? That's ridiculous. I showed Dad, and he seemed to agree with me. Get a load of this. And he says, let me see. Classic Frank Heffley. That's when I realized things are going to be okay between the two of us. Me and Dad might not agree on everything, but at least we agree on the important stuff. I guess some people would say that hating a comic is a pretty flimsy foundation for a relationship, but the truth is me and Dad hate lots of the same things. Me and Dad might not have one of those close, chummy father-son relationships, but that's fine with me. I've learned that there is such a thing being too close. And it's Riley taking a dump in the bathroom while his dad is in there asking if he had a good summer. I realized my summer vacation was pretty much over when Mom finished up the photo album today. I flipped through it, and to be honest with you, I don't think this is a very accurate record of our summer. I guess the person who takes the pictures is the one who gets to tell the story. And it says, best summer ever. Reading is fun. The Reading is Fun Club gang says no to video games. Now Gregory can't stop reading, and it's him at the gay salon, calling back. Gregory plays a game of hide-and-seek with a summer pal, and that's Fregley when he was naked. Just what I wanted. And it's Greg next to his eating cake. 3 generations of Heffley men bond over brunch when the dad found out that the grandpa killed the dog. Roderick said, who needs the beach? And he's sitting in the whatever it was called, the Slip and Gay water park. A magical 4th of July, slip and splash. Oops, Mom gets in the picture. Gregory finds a cool spot. Oh, that's him with the hairy guy with the penis from the locker room. And then best friends with him and Riley at the end. And holy smokes, that's the end of the book. So that was Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days. Of course, as I said at the start, it is signed by me. So, just put your address in the comments. Don't actually do that. Maybe, if you want to, you can. Yeah. I need to get a job, dude.